Indeed, such a momentous occasion. A lot of Londoners were lining up to have the maiden ride on that train, which will be feeding into the existing tube, as they call it, in central London. I can't wait to have a ride of the same back home in Kenya one day. Well, let's talk matters taxes now, and it's about time for us to get into our weekly segment, and this is BizChat Weekly. But before we get into that, we want to just set the tone for our discussion, and members of parliament have enough policy headroom to bring down the cost of living, in addition to scrapping proposed taxes in the Finance Bill 2022. And as KTN's Brenda Kirubo reports, Kenyans have welcomed the move but are still concerned about the high cost of basic commodities.
The Finance Bill 2022 had set the stage for another round of increased taxation to the average Kenyan. But this was not to be after the National Parliament rejected a number of proposed tax measures. This, in essence, leaving Treasury CS Ukur Yatani with limited options to meet the huge budget deficit. This means Treasury will now have to go back to the drawing board and assess other areas it can target to raise taxes or alternatively increase the external debt.
The authority has been doing very well in terms of surpassing their targets, and based on those projections and the economic activities that's going to abound next financial year, we are confident about raising that amount of resources, at least reaching the target.
We are in a growth environment now. The economy is projected to have grown by 7.6% in 2021. We are projecting a growth of 6%. And that growth is the one that we have factored in as we have factored in higher revenues. Because without growth, you wouldn't then be able to generate additional revenues.
The government had forecast to raise 51.6 billion shillings in additional revenue by increasing taxes on items such as maize flour, cassava flour, alcoholic beverages and motorcycles. But the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning opposed the move, citing it will further increase the cost of living for the common mwananchi. The parliamentarians also proposed that inflation adjustment be revised from annually to after every 2 years, because a yearly inflation impacts on taxpayers' capacity for production and investment.
Right now, many Kenyans are struggling financially and to afford these basic commodities. And we still need these commodities to go lower than they are right now. So it's bravo to the MPs, and I urge them to maintain that one and not approve any tax to the basic commodities.
Lakini naona hata gas washukishi, hata construction materials pia washukishi.
Inflation, a measure of annual changes in the cost of living, hit 6.47% in April from 5.56% in March. Items like fuel, cooking oil, soap and cooking gas hit the highest level since September 2021.
Maharagwe sasa gunia moja imekuwa 80,000 na pesa juu. Na unajua wakati ule wakulima yani watu wananunuliwa kwa bei ya kiasi, kila mtu asiumie, inafika mwisho 500 na 100, na sasa imeenda sana. Hata mbazi sasa imeenda sana, kwa sababu kilo 90 sasa imekuwa 9,000.
Medium class wako chini, wanaumia, wanalalamika. Pia hakuna mvua, watu wengine wanatarajia kupata mafuno ya mvua sana, saa hii hakuna. So serikali inaweza angalia itushukishie bei.
Other taxes opposed by the committee include a deposit of 50% of disputed amount with the Commissioner for Cases, a proposal to increase capital gains tax from 5% to 15%, betting tax from 7.5% to 20%, and excise duty on spirits, beer and wines. The committee noted that these proposals, if enacted, may not necessarily lead to higher revenue collection, as people may resort to betting in offshore companies and drinking illicit alcohol. The recommended changes to the finance bill will likely keep the cost of these goods largely unchanged if adopted by the House before it takes a break on June 16th. Brenda Kirubo, KTN News.
Okay, very interesting comments coming out from the Kenyans in regards to some of the items that they really want taxes to be reconsidered. Let me now bring in our resident analyst, and this is